Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and the dust has settled on Sunday. The League Cup win has set in at Celtic Football Club, and we can move on. The other side of the city won't move on, and I suspect they won't for a while. However, the dust has settled in the east, which is all that matters for now, which means we can turn our attention to some Celtic transfer talk. Lovely, great, so entertaining, silly season. My favourite time of year. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We have crossed the 47,000 subscriber mark. I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you all so much. Well over 5,000 subscribers this year, catapulting us to the #1 most subscribed to Celtic fan channel on the platform. That's all down to you guys. I really do appreciate it. So keep up the support. Keep pressing like and subscribe every video. If you want to become a channel member, you can do that as well. But we've got a big one today. We've got some news to talk about, some players that look set to leave the club, and us being linked with a player who we were linked with in the summer transfer window. So, without wasting more time, let's do this. Celtic have been linked with Belgian winger Michel-Ange Balikwisha, not for the first time this calendar year. If you cast your mind back to the end of the transfer window in the summer, Celtic were linked with Balikwisha with very little time to go, which meant there wasn't a lot of room for a realistic bid in negotiations, especially with the price tag that was floated around back at that point of the transfer window. We were hearing stories coming out of Belgium that the player was valued at around maybe 9, 10, 11 million pounds. And I know we went out and signed Arne Engels and spent a lot of money there quite late on, but there was a real doubt that Celtic were going to do it for two players with such little time left in the window. However, despite a huge injury which has kept him out basically all season, it seems that Celtic are still interested, and according to reports by Stephen McGowan, we have reignited that heading into the January transfer window. These were the headlines from the Daily Mail saying that the £5 million rated winger is still on Brendan Rodgers' radar. It had some quotes in it, which I will show you now, courtesy of Stephen McGowan's article. Antwerp's CEO, Sven Jacques, listen, I'm not French, right? I'm not French. I know I sometimes pretend to be German, but I can't pretend to be French and all. He said that two clubs, Celtic and Rennes, have kept negotiating to possibly still bring in Michel-Ange Balikwisha in this January transfer window. We know that such clubs will focus on January. He must now return as soon as possible to be fit, and we'll see what happens. So the Antwerp CEO has put it out there that Celtic are still in there, still trying to negotiate, still looking at possibly signing Michel-Ange Balikwisha in this January transfer window, which is some huge news. We know that Celtic need to improve in the winger department outside of the first team options, Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn. We don't have depth and real quality. Luis Palma could be off. James Forrest is obviously in the kind of last stages of his career. Yang is an inconsistent, Willie won't-he sort player. We need proven quality, and Michel-Ange Balikwisha, going off his campaign last season, would certainly suggest he possibly could be one. Now, we are hearing in the article by Stephen McGowan that right now he's valued at around £5 million, which is almost half of what we heard in the summer, and I think a lot of that might be down to the situation that the player has found himself in this season. You will notice here on screen he's only played 3 times all season, 116 minutes in the Pro League, which is obviously, you know, not even a game and a half of football, but there is a reason for that. Right back at the start of the campaign in August, before a ball was even kicked in domestic football in Belgium, Michel-Ange Balikwisha suffered a big injury. I think it was in his leg somewhere, which has kept him out from August 1st all the way to December 5th. He's just back from injury. He missed 17 games through injuries for 126 days while he was away, but he is now back, trying to fight his way back to full fitness and finding himself back in the Antwerp starting 11. But perhaps not for much longer if clubs like Celtic and Rennes are circling and looking to make something happen. His form in the 2023-24 campaign was pretty good from the left wing. He scored 10 goals across all competitions, racked up 18 assists as well, which meant he had 18 goal contributions in total across all of his minutes. That included a goal in the Champions League group stage for Antwerp, and a goal and assist in the Champions League qualifiers as well, and was talked about as one of the most exciting players in the Jupiler Pro League for that 23-24 campaign. There was a lot of anticipation upon him going into this season, where he was sadly derailed through injury. The lad's only 23. He's got a long way to go. He's a Belgian under-21 internationalist as well. If he can recapture the form that he had last season and the excitement that was around him, this could be a huge chance for Celtic to bring in a real quality winger. And I suppose that's where the fear will come in. Will he be able to recapture that form? Because injuries can play a substantial part in players trying to recover days of old. You know, some players never recover from injuries. What I will say is this is nothing like a career ender or a potential career ender. It's not like he's tore his ACL or anything like that. He was only out for a few months. He is now back. So I don't think there should be too much of a fear surrounding it. The only thing is, if you want to move from early in the January window, there's not a lot of time between now and then to make a real assessment of whether or not he's back to his best. And I don't think it would be fair to judge him on this amount of time either, because it's just generally not a lot. So Brendan Rodgers and the scouting team will be doing their work. I'm sure he's not the only winger who the club will be looking at in this transfer window, but he's certainly an option, and if Stephen McGowan's article is anything to go by, it's one that Celtic are very keen to make happen. So, Michel-Ange Balikwisha, could he be a Celtic player soon? I'm sure there'll be more to come, and we'll talk about it as we find out more. It was a very interesting article from Stephen McGowan, because not only did it contain this story surrounding Michel-Ange Balikwisha, but we have found out more details surrounding 3 players who could be leaving the club in the January transfer window. 3 players that you would probably expect to see move on, but nonetheless some big news. Let's talk about them, shall we? A trio of players who could be moving on. First of all, Stephen Welsh. I feel like I have said this the last 4 or 5 transfer windows, that Stephen Welsh is set to leave the club and is on the list to go. But according to Stephen McGowan and Mail Sport, Stephen Welsh is set for talks with Brendan Rodgers over a potential move out the club to get minutes across the second half of the campaign. Of course, Stephen Welsh has found himself in a position where he's behind Liam Scales, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty, and ultimately just nowhere near the level of those 3 players, and for the best of his own career probably does want to move on. Now, what's interesting is the wording is he wants minutes in the second half of this campaign. So does that mean it's potentially a loan move for Stephen Welsh somewhere? Maybe so. But I think the best for both parties is just to move him on altogether. He has been linked with moves away to France, Italy, England, basically the whole continent over the past couple of years. There's been a number of clubs who have come close to signing him, apparently. We've heard that teams have been very, very close to signing him, and Celtic have pulled the plug kind of last minute. And I think one of the main reasons for him staying has been that European quota. A club-trained player to help get us to that number that we need, 4 players every year. And I think that's one of the main reasons we've kept him here. But at the end of the day, he's one of those 4 players who gets involved in that list, then doesn't play anyway. He's genuinely just there to tick a box, which you can do now with the next set of youth players you want to keep around for a while and use as bit part players. There's going to be guys coming up through that system now that can take Welsh's spot, whether they're centre halves or centre forwards. You know, it's just natural. I think the best for both parties is to move Welsh on. I mean, the last time he played for Celtic was Falkirk in the Cup on the 22nd of September. He played 85 minutes that day. It's his only appearance this season. His Celtic career, and I don't say this in a sort of, I don't mean this in a nasty way or with any malice. His Celtic career is as good as over. and I think that's been made perfectly clear with his involvement this season. So I'm sure he's choking to go and play football somewhere. He's won a lot of trophies here. He's been involved over certain periods of time, but so he's set for a conversation with the boss. Another centre-half who could be leaving is Mike Nawrocki. He has been touted with a move away as well. He's apparently, quotations, considering his options, said Stephen McGowan in the same article. Just like Stephen Welsh, we've only seen him once in a competitive game this season, and it was for 5 minutes. In the same game, he came on for Stephen Welsh that day with the last 5 minutes of the game. He has had a bit of a flop of a career here at Celtic. Someone who came in expected to be one of the future centre-halves, maybe the partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers, and it just hasn't panned out that way once again. Time to maybe move him on. I really like Mike Nawrocki, comes across a great guy, and I didn't see much wrong with him as a player either, but obviously there's just something that is holding him back from being in the team if the manager doesn't think he's good enough. So yeah, probably best we move him on as well. Be on a decent wage. We've paid a good bit of money for him. Will Celtic be able to recoup that fee? I'm not entirely sure, but he is the second of 3 names. And then finally, the trio is complete by, well, you guessed it, Luis Palma. He is obviously one of the players who could be out as well, and once again, just like Mike Nawrocki is considering his options. Now, we did hear a couple of weeks ago that there was a couple of clubs in the MLS who were interested in the services of Luis Palma. It seems like it's a nail on that he will end up over in America. Closer to home, a move which it contains money, wages, transfer fees. Teams do have a bit of penny over there. So yeah, those are the trio of players who are set to move on in January, apparently. Stephen Welsh, Mike Nawrocki and Luis Palma. 3 names that I think, should probably be moved on. They're not being used. They're not good enough. And Celtic need to free up space on the wage cap and just in the general squad list. So yeah, it looks as though they will be off in January. And that does it for today. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Silly season is fully underway now. A few Celtic transfer talks over the past couple of weeks, so we are proper in the swing of things now. So stay with me, like and subscribe, and keep updated as we go on through the days. But anyway, that's it. I'll see you next time. Ta-da.